I was recently sitting in meditation and I came to a better understanding of something I was actually shown when I met my twin flame. Even though it's actually been there in front of me since my awakening and I recognized it in different ways, this was a heightened awareness of it. This to me is part of my ascension where I'll get information and I have a certain level of understanding about it. But then as I walk my spiritual path, gaining new knowledge and awareness, that same piece of information is presented to me again, maybe showing up in my life in different ways. And I recognize it, but having the newer knowledge or experience that I have now, I see it from a higher perspective. And this can happen again and again. And that little tidbit of information that my higher self guided me to earlier in my journey has expanded into this beautiful, incredible learning experience and is now a part of my life. And it comes from my soul and it's helping me to be my best self. So, what I got during meditation, and I've talked about it before, but this goes on to something even greater, was that during soul recognition, even though I didn't realize that's what was happening at the time, I could see my soul in my twin flame's eyes. I could see his capacity to love, that depth of feeling he was experiencing at soul recognition emanated through him and into me. The way he looked at me, and this is probably why we notice the intensity of this experience through the eyes more than anything else, because I saw the emotions he was feeling. I mean, it's experienced in other senses as well, but the eyes stood out to me the most. The way he adored me, the way he looked at me, and I could see his heart was melting. Like he was just in complete awe of me, and I could feel it in our energy. And even though I've gradually come into more understanding of that moment in different ways, I had new clarity this particular morning about why this happened. And I actually felt a spiritual shift in this moment because what I'm about to share with you has to do with the feelings we produce during meditation and how we can create those feelings to come from within and not from our environment, which can produce feelings we may not want or are not beneficial to us. So after this happened, I actually came across a video that talked more about science-based info on law of attraction, and that led to another video that was more about meditation, but they both supported everything I've been experiencing. So I'll reference those two videos and link them below. So I was sitting there that morning trying to do a deeper meditation because lately I haven't been doing my meditations with good focus. So I really tried to clear my thoughts because I do meditate every day and almost every day. And sometimes I just let my thoughts flow, nothing serious, but just peaceful, happy thoughts. But this particular morning, I wanted to really try to get into that space of nothingness because I hadn't done that in a while. But as I was doing this, the moment of soul recognition with my twin popped into my head, and I saw in a flash the way he looked at me, the way he was so in his feelings in that moment. And I remembered how he just seemed so overwhelmed by our experience with each other and how he was really in touch with his feelings. And I thought, wait, that's the heart chakra, which is where I believe the twins meet, because to me, that's the portal for the soul as consciousness into my physical body. And he was there in the heart chakra, and I was there in the heart chakra in that moment of soul recognition, because I believe that's the design of meeting our twin flame, that we are gifted soul alignment in that moment of soul recognition, and it's felt in our heart. But if you've watched part 2 and 3 from this series about soul recognition and soul activation, or even part 17 from my Soul Spark series, which is the science of soul recognition and activation for twin flames, but I go into how we're brought to alignment with our soul in the moment of soul recognition. When we're brought to our divine energy in that moment, it feels like an alternate reality, and it really is. It's showing us our best timeline. But when we get back into our normal life after soul recognition, we usually get back into our imbalances, the deep wounds, the everyday lower vibrations, reliving the past. And I have another video in this series about the vibrations of running and chasing that talks about why we go into that stage during activation. But any of those videos discuss that. I believe when our soul is awakened to itself through contact of the other physical body, we are brought to balance in that moment of soul recognition. We're in divine energy. and experiencing love for our twin. And what we feel during soul recognition, we're actually being shown that that's the love we can have for ourselves. What we feel for ourselves when we are aligned. And when we have that depth of love for ourselves, we know we're in balance with our soul. But a greater understanding of that came out of this particular meditation for me. When I thought about how deeply he was feeling and I thought about how he was really in touch with his feelings, it hit me how I was being shown exactly what I need to do to be in soul, which is to open my heart to feeling. And hang in there with me because this is my higher self showing me how union will occur. So while I was meditating, my inner being was showing me this. And for a long time, I have been, maintaining a higher vibration, and I will think about things that make me feel good. But I've been giving greater focus to really opening my heart to feel gratitude to the point that it will make me laugh and cry sometimes, like it's an overwhelming feeling. But this is bringing my physical, my mind, body, and emotions to this awareness of how our feeling is the key. And that can be low vibrations or high vibrations, your choice. And this is where I'm going with this. Through meditation, we get away from letting the ego be in charge and we open that balance to our ego and our intuition by being in our heart, which is our soul bridge. Hence, why we have soul recognition there with our twin, why we meet there. But bringing that balance to our ego and intuition is the same thing as bringing balance to our heart and our brain, just on a slightly different level. It's all one. It's all bringing alignment to our physical and our spiritual, bringing our lower three chakras and our upper three chakras into balance. And they meet in the heart center and they actually mirror each other. The things I talked about in part 11 of Soul Spark, which is soul essence, those are just a few of the things that we're bringing to balance, but there are many more aspects, and they're happening as we're walking our spiritual path, as we're getting into that balance. I think I probably talk about the physical and spiritual balance, which is soul alignment, in almost everything I write or video concerning my journey. How it's constantly shown to me in different ways, and how the balance of them are the fortification to mine and my twin's soul bridge. Our bridge that links our physical nature to our spiritual essence, is how I like to put it. It's our union, and not just between our physical bodies, but everything between our physical worlds and spiritual existence ties into our soul. Some examples of the physical and spiritual are observing and experiencing. Observing is spiritual, experiencing is physical. The ether and the matrix, the intuition and ego, conscious and subconscious, heart and brain, even right brain and left brain. Right brain is our intuition and creativity. Our left brain is our ego. And most of us tend to be operating out of our left brain, our ego, but balancing those is where our power is. Like, intuition is where we get our unique ideas from. And then we use our left brain to put structure to those ideas, to put them into action. That's the physical. And all of those parts of our existence may seem similar in some ways, but that's because one side all linked to the spiritual, while the other side all linked to the physical. Through the practice of meditation, you're putting your ego in check because you're taking charge by balancing with yourself. The more you do this, and it doesn't have to happen through meditation, but the meditative state really allows you to get into the energetic field instead of being more in matter. And this is the part of what I want to touch on from those videos. Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about the brain waves, especially gamma waves, being in that state of nothingness. And when you're in that state, you are source in the physical, you are consciousness. And this is another thing I've come into a deeper realization of, and it's when I was doing part 6 from Soul Spark, which is Soul Bridge, which is everything already exists as potential. Source energy is infinite possibility. Like in my 30s, I started coming into my own beliefs instead of what my parents taught me, which was religion. But I realized I believed in infinity, even though that's not what I was taught. And I remember I was having a conversation with someone one day, and it just came out of my mouth where I said, the fact that the circle exists is proof of infinity. But I wondered, what does that mean? Is there another me somewhere? Infinite me's making different decisions, infinite Earths living different lives. But when I was doing part 6, Soul Bridge, I got the word potential. And what that meant to me is that potential is infinite consciousness that can potentially be manifested in the physical. That's where we come in and we choose what we manifest from that potential. And when I was watching the Dr. Joe Dispenza video, he said the thoughts in the quantum field are potential. And he goes into a deeper studied science concerning this. And it's really fascinating. So I highly recommend watching this video or other ones to do with his studies concerning meditation in the quantum field, because it gets into the electromagnetic energy and how our matter is affected, which has to do with manifestation. And that's yet another thing that I've gotten deeper understanding of. When I did the soul essence video, I talked about how manifesting and meditation are balanced as a whole. And when I was first getting into meditation, I heard, "You are a powerful meditator." But then followed by that were the words, "He is a powerful manifester," meaning my twin. And I heard it again later on down the road through ascension, but my higher self said, "You are a powerful meditator. You are a powerful manifester." And many months later, I heard someone else mention that meditating and manifesting go hand in hand, though they didn't explain why. But now I have more of a scientific understanding of why they do work together. And I love having that scientific backing. It just really sets my beliefs in deeper. And saying that leads me to the other video of Braden, where he talks about thoughts being of the upper three chakras and emotions being of the lower three, and coming together to produce feelings and beliefs, which are of the heart chakra. And I'm going to pull all of this together because it's truly fascinating to me. But that getting into the heart chakra, that's what I like to call bridging. It's how I see all of this coming together. It's us aligning with our soul. So, why is meditation important? I firmly believe that meditation is a key component to my spiritual journey, especially as a twin flame, because for me, meditation opened me to receive answers I was looking for concerning my twin, my other experiencer. That was one of the benefits for me earlier in my journey, because I was still feeling some of that obsessive energy where thinking of him was not as intense as it was in the activation stage, because it had mellowed out a good bit. But when I started meditating, I still had that little bit of obsessiveness there, even though the energy calmed. And I was just really trying to make sense of it. So, in a way, it still felt a little bit like that obsessive energy, even though it was much calmer. And it did continue to gradually balance out. But meditation was one of the things that really helped me with that, because it was one of the first steps I took in my spiritual path, just after recognizing the need for improvement with self love. And I felt that it's important because not only does it provide physical benefits to my well being, but it opens me to my intuitive guidance, my higher self. And if you've watched my video, Higher You, I talk about my higher self being shared by me and my twin, while we each also have our own. For me, meditating has opened me more to communication with the best version of him and me. And everything about my higher self is soul alignment. Being in communication with my higher self, or our higher selves, or our higher self, however you want to reference it, is showing me soul alignment, showing me how to balance. But how is it showing me? It's showing me through my feelings. And Abraham-Hicks talks about aligning with your higher self by looking at how you're feeling. And I agree with this. Your feelings are your indicators. If something resonates, you're on the right track. If it doesn't, that's because it doesn't align with your inner being. And since my higher self is in union with my twin flame, not only does following the guidance of my higher self bring me to my best timeline, but it brings me to union with my twin flame. Okay, so I'm going to get into about where those feelings come from to have a better understanding of this, because like I said, I like having that knowledge of how this works, because when the proof is there, all of this is even more powerful to me. And no, you don't need it. I don't need it. We can certainly just go through this. But to me, this is fun. This is exploring. So what I'm about to discuss is really incredible because it affirms that balance even more. It helps me to better understand how to balance in each of those areas. So the Dr. Joe Dispenza video, he talks about meditation and how when we quiet our mind, we're not thinking. And if we're not thinking, we're not analyzing. And he says the analytical mind is what causes separation between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind, which are one of the areas of balance I mentioned in the Soul Essence video. And in doing this, you are able to reprogram, which is our opportunity to create. Okay, I'm going to jump around a little bit, but I'm going to bring all this together. So when Greg Braden talked about the upper three chakras, which are linked to thought, and the lower three chakras, which are linked to emotions, and he said we only have two emotions, love and fear, and I agree with that. Emotions are different from feelings. Feelings come from those emotions, from those two emotions. And the feelings can be things like sadness, joy, and so on. But he also referenced the definition of what a belief is. And he said it's the union or marriage of thought and emotion. But I remembered something Abraham-Hicks said, which is a belief is just a thought you continue to think. And both of those resonated with me, but both are lacking the combination of the others. So I put them together, and this really resonated with me even more. And it goes like this: a belief is a continual culmination of a specific thought and emotion. So, the actual definition of a belief is an acceptance of a statement as true or that something exists. But I think bringing the thought and emotion to it, that definition, the culmination, continual culmination of a specific thought and emotion, bringing that thought and emotion to it explains why we accept it. So, as he talks about this and says our thoughts are fueled by our emotions, either love or fear, and when we do that, we create a feeling, and feeling happens in the heart, the bridge. And remember, this is where we get into that flow with our soul energy. So, the belief is what translates from the quantum, which is potential. It translates from the quantum to the atoms, and the atoms are manifestation. That's spiritual and physical. Potential and manifestation, quantum and atoms. Greg Braden also references Einstein by saying that atoms are affected by the field, meaning the electromagnetic field, or the fields, as he references them, in our bodies, because we have an electrical field and a magnetic field, which is our physiology. What he says is that beliefs change matter. So when our heart and brain are balanced, that heart-brain coherence, we're in a higher vibration. And if our atoms are affected by that field, he also mentions that our heart produces the strongest electrical and magnetic fields in our bodies. So what's in our heart is going to have the greatest effect on our atoms. And you put that in with meditation. This is our greatest point of manifestation. Taking all that in through meditation and allowing high vibrational feelings to dwell in my heart, I'm in that creative state to choose from the possibilities in the quantum, in those energetic fields. That's where energetic manifestations occur. And Dr. Joe talks about the difference between manifesting with our matter and manifesting with our energy. Manifesting with matter is where we involve time, because he says we are dragging our matter through space and time. So it takes time, and that makes sense. But the more present we can be in our meditation, not thinking of the past or the future, then the more we are in that field Greg Braden talks about. And our strongest ability to create is right there. This comes from your beliefs and thoughts to make those feelings. So you can't go against your thoughts. That means no resistance. Like all that stuff that used to go through my head. He's too different. No one loves me. He could never love me. Am I enough of this or that? Be in love with yourself. I'm perfect just as I am. I think that of my twin. I should think that of myself, right? And I actually do now. I'm unique. I think that of him. I'm fun. I'm creative. And I think that of him. Because if you're in love with yourself, you have all those high vibrational feelings that come from those beliefs. And remember that belief is what translates from the quantum to the atoms, from the potential to the manifestation. So think about this. When we meditate, we're looking within. And the heart brain coherence and meditation is that we're changing our thought patterns that have, for the most part, related to the past, because most of our thoughts, especially in our subconscious mind, we're just reliving the past. And this was another thing, too, that Dr. Joe pointed out, and it resonated very strongly with me because I am not a believer of past life karma, and I only believe certain things about karma in this life. But he said reliving those memories are just determining our future, which is karma. We allow our emotions to be determined by our environment. But when we meditate, we go inward, and our emotions are determined by our heart-brain coherence, which is balance because they're working together, which is aligning with your soul. Because when you get into a deeper meditative state, when you really are able to shut down the worldly things that cause your imbalances or distractions, you're able to go into a deeper meditative state. This is you becoming consciousness. That's source energy. That's your creative state. That's where you manifest through your energy, which is a higher vibration, which means it's faster. Having this deeper understanding, I can look back and see how all along my higher self has been showing me exactly what this journey is for me. And little by little, I'm showing more and more of it where I'm getting the bigger picture. First, there was soul recognition through my twin. With that came the knowing that this is far greater than anything I've ever experienced before. It was one of the first things I noticed, even though it didn't make sense to me at the time. Then self-love was the first step I took that moved me into ascension. Then there was meditation. And all of it ties in together. It's intricately woven. Through self-love, I can move into being and thoughts and emotions that create beliefs, feelings that allow for my expansion and allow for the manifestation of my world that I create. I am my own creator. I can meditate on a healthy body, meditate on fuller hair, for example. But you have to take it in a positive direction, like you say things that are supporting beliefs of that. And you take your high vibrational feelings and you use them towards that. And my higher self told me these are the tools I need. Not directly. I had to go through my journey thus far to empower myself as I learned the things I've learned and the awareness I've come into. It's all about turning inwardly through self-love. And that's why we're guided to improving with self-love, because when we're right with that and we turn to ourselves, we are opening our hearts. We are allowing ourselves to feel, to truly feel, which was the thing that just really hit me when I was in meditation that morning. It's that my twin was mirroring back to me to be in those feelings the way he was. Because I thought about how he was so deep in his feelings, and I was like, but how was I? I was actually relaxed and going with the flow. But that made me think about how I was trying to protect my heart once activation set in and my imbalances, my fears surfaced, and the running and chasing had just started, even though I didn't know that's what was going on, that I didn't know that I wasn't going to see him like we planned. So I remember fearing he was going to do what others had done, and I tried not to feel anything. I tried to shut him out. I tried to forget about him, but the obsessive energy got me on that. So, but I tried to make excuses like he's too young, he's too far away, he's too different. And like so many other times, I went into that shutdown mode where I would not allow myself to feel. I would not be my authentic self. And after a week of back and forth with him, I blocked him. I wouldn't look at his dating profile that I met him through. Like, I denied it all. And that's running energy. But I went back and forth with that. The intensity of it all would not allow me to let him go. And I couldn't think of anything else. It was so hard to interact with people when I was around other people. I just wanted to be alone so I could give my full attention to those thoughts of him. But you probably already know this. But yeah, so I recognized what my higher self had shown me in the beginning, but it was through meditation that I got more and more from it. And I do believe that comes in many different ways on our journey, but meditation for me is such a strong, direct path. When I meditate, I try to access those feelings that really light up my heart. And being grateful is the best way to do that. And like this feeling right now that I have, I can feel it in my heart. And that's what my higher self is showing me, is to open my heart that way, to be in complete adoration of myself and life. And when you're doing your thing and your focus is on your life, your attention to yourself, there's something that some people say that I somewhat dislike, which is your twin showing up is a byproduct of that, or just a bonus. It's just a bonus that they show up. So the more I get into my consciousness through meditation and through just being in that love and gratitude, like I don't always have to meditate to do that. Meditation just helps me get to that point of being that way in my life. And the more I do that, then the more I am in my divine energy, I'm in my consciousness, in my soul. That's unity consciousness in a higher vibration, because matter is more dense, it's a lower vibration, but the energy, especially like when we're in our soul energy, that is a higher vibration. Can manifest, outside of meditation, of course, and in different ways, but we can manifest through our bad feelings, and not just, we manifest in all kinds of ways, but it's more dense, it's a lower vibration and as Dr. Joe Dispenza puts it, he says we're dragging our matter through space and time, and he talks about that. But the key here is, he says, I'm not matter trying to change matter, I'm energy changing matter. Okay, one last thing that I want to share that is very warming to my heart. It just makes me feel good. It's a song, and it's actually a couple of words. One word is everything. It's a word that I've gotten throughout a good part of my journey, and almost constantly it has shown up in some form or fashion along my journey. And I even did a video, I think it was the second video I did in my Soul Spark series, where I linked the song Everything by Lifehouse. And another song I've been getting a lot lately is I Just Want to Be Your Everything by Andy Gibb. And I just love it because it's such a feel-good song. It's just fun to sing anyway, because he gets, really high with it, and it's just fun. Like, I just want to be your everything. But it also goes along with another word that keeps coming up a lot lately, which is key. But he sings, your love will turn the key. And then in the chorus, he sings, I just want to be your everything. And this is my favorite part. Open up the heaven in your heart and let me be the things you are to me and not some puppet on a string. And that is just so much of what I've seen in my own journey, because it's about love. And of course, that's the key. And open up the heaven in your heart. That's just a beautiful way to put what I just discussed. And the rest of the chorus sounds to me like letting go of control, just being in the present moment and focusing on the feel-good stuff. That's raising vibrations, because it's those feelings that come from the emotions of love or fear that manifest our reality.